Welcome back to Passion and Purpose. April is recognized as National Minority Health Month, as well as Stress Awareness Month. And one of the biggest stressors that all of us carry, but we rarely talk about, is suffering in silence. Today, we're going to talk about what happens when pain goes unspoken, needs go unexpressed, and silence slowly becomes the way we survive. Previously on Passion and Purpose.
That's why we're creating spaces like this, and hopefully, if it's someone out there in our audience that maybe experienced something and say, you know what, maybe this will help them go back and replay a situation. That person wasn't being bossy. They were just telling me exactly what I needed to hear, but maybe I wasn't in the space to want to hear it in that time. But hopefully by watching this episode, they'll learn that, people don't have to suffer in silence, and they don't have to tiptoe around verbiage when they're speaking, respectfully and the truth.
That's it right there. I think we can head to question number 5 from here.
Man, I don't know about our audience, but I'm healing.
Yes, absolutely.
And this just goes back to that conversation that we were speaking on earlier when we spoke about, not speaking from a wounded space, but actually speaking from your scars. That's being able to speak from a healed place.
Mm-hmm. Speaking from our scars. I'm telling you, I love that. Speaking from our scars. That's good, Ren. That's good.
Thank you.
Well, going into question number 5. Question number 5 asks, why do you think it's easier for many of us to complain than to clearly express a need?
We've been trained more so in complaints than we have in expressing our needs. So the complaint, we're more mature in the complaining business than we is in actually expressing that need right there. And as we said in one of our segments, in order to express ourselves freely, we have to be in a safe space. So that has a lot to do with it. So complaining often feels easier because it requires less vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
So expressing a need requires honesty, and honesty creates an emotional exposure. So when someone says you never listen, they are criticizing behavior. But when someone says I need to feel heard, they're revealing a personal need. It's what you said earlier, it's in the language.
Mm-hmm.
So psychologically, criticism protects the ego while vulnerability exposes it. And you're right, there she was this anonymous person we're talking about. She was vulnerable enough to say, hey, you offended me, or I took offense.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I was glad to know so I can address that. And this is really how our mind operates. If we know what the offense was, then maybe we can address it. But we won't begin to organize if we can address what it was in the first place. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Just aligning, just adding on to what Mr. Al said, complaining can feel safer. It keeps us emotionally protected. When we complain, we're pointing outward as opposed to addressing our true desire, what it is that we're truly seeking. But expressing a need, like Mr. Al said, it does require vulnerability. It asks us to say something like, I need more communication, or I need support right now in this moment. And that level of honesty can feel uncomfortable because it reveals a tender place within us. Yeah, ironically, that very vulnerability that we avoid is often the bridge that leads to deeper understanding and connection, whether it be in a platonic relationship, whether it be at work, whether it be at home, with your kids, whether it be with your parents, your siblings, or whoever. But oftentimes, like when we open up and allow ourselves to be vulnerable, it brings a higher understanding to whatever the situation may be.
That's it. And, and I think it's interesting how we have so much access, to social media and all these things, and we can see other people that are doing and aspiring to things. You might be a mother and you see other women who are working and taking care of home and doing all these things. So then you internalize it and you believe you're supposed to have an S on your chest. Maybe your mother or grandmother or women you see, it seemed like they just got everything together. And yet here you are with your one child and, you can't keep all the things together. And so now you have a complex about yourself. And so when you come home after a hard day of work and, you doing all the things and you supposed to be able to come and clean up the house and feed the kid and, do all the things and have that S on your chest, but you're falling, then you start to feel like you're weak. And so you hear yourself saying things like to your, spouse or whatever, oh man, you don't never help around here, instead of just saying, I feel overwhelmed, I need help. Because if you say, I feel overwhelmed and I need help, how dare you say that when you've got this mother of three over here who's doing all of this amazing work and you just have one child? Why can't you do? And these are the things that we're saying in our head, not that somebody is necessarily saying to us, but things that we've internalized. And so then we choose to complain, like you guys were saying, we choose to complain because that's easier, that's less vulnerable than saying, I know, I'm just overwhelmed and I need help. And so, and I also think about Mr. Al, how during our support circle meeting here recently, when we were talking about this suffering in silence, and we talked about the analogy of a wound and how, many of us, when a wound is not attended to, and that wound stays open and doesn't get dressed and cleansed and the right medicines and all that kind of stuff, that wound is going to end up becoming infected until it gets addressed properly. And so for many of us, we're walking around with 25-year-old, 30-year-old wounds internally. And when we're walking around with those wounds, something that happened to us all those years ago. And because it never got addressed, it doesn't just disappear. Like you said earlier, Ren, in the episode, it doesn't just disappear. That stuff accumulates and then it becomes infected. And so we're infected on the inside. And now all we know how to do is complain. We don't know how to do anything other than complain. And then we become that source of heaviness when we walk into a room, and then it seems like people don't want to hear what we have to say. So then when we start to feel like people don't want to hear what we have to say, then we stay silent and we just perpetuate this cycle of just suffering inside. We still got that 25-year-old open wound that's infected, and now we're adding and piling on top of it by suffering in silence in our current moment, until we finally, like a wound that finally gets properly addressed. When that wound gets the right antibiotics in there and it begins to get treated, and we start to put the right things in our body and drink the water and give it nourishment, and our bodies become healthy, that wound don't have any choice but to start to heal. And so when we start to create healthy environments on the inside for the internal wounds that we have, then we start to allow that wound to begin to heal. And before we know it, our language begins to change and we find ourselves saying, oh, I like that flower, that's pretty. And people like, oh, wow. And like you've mentioned before, Mr. Al, if we have the ability to pass down unhealthy and trauma, unhealthy emotional, wounds and trauma, if we can pass that down, we can also pass down healing. And so that's what we're working here to do, is to help create that space for us so that we can start to pass down healing.
Just a brief insert on what Dia just mentioned. Even with social media, for me, that has been a healthy place to remove myself when it comes to my healing journey. Like I just shared, I believe in the email recently with you and Mr. Al, that I had taken a little bit of time away from social media. So for someone who gets kind of caught up in the cycle of comparing your life or comparing, well, I see this person on social media doing this and doing that, it's healthy to remove yourself from that unless you set the algorithm on your social media to where you're only seeing those positive things. Hopefully coming on this platform and seeing these episodes is a positive thing for people to be able to, even when you take a break from social media, being able to come here and find a positive space. But, because we do see so much that can be considered negative on social media, it is a healthy part of your healing journey to remove yourself out of that space for a little while, do a social media cleanse, and, know that your journey is your journey. It's not supposed to look like this person's over here, because where it may look like on social media that they have it all together, by the time they get off social media, their whole life, their whole world could be in shambles. I don't want to ask Spirit, I don't want to ask God to model my life after their life. I don't want to carry their unburdened traumas and, things of that nature. No. Mm-mm.
So true. So good. And Mr. Al, I think at some point you had mentioned how people can bond over complaining.
Trauma bonding.
Yep. And so, like we kind of were talking about before, when we start to heal, then we can start bonding over from a heal place instead of the trauma bonding. So, yep. All right. Well, I think we can move right on to our final question. Y'all ready?
Yes.
Let's do it. Okay, so question number 6 asks, how does unexpressed need turn into resentment or emotional withdrawal over time? I feel like we've kind of almost answered this question in a few ways, but and I'm going to just ask, in addition to this, what would you say as we wrap up this episode would be like a really practical step for someone to take who might find themselves in that place where they have been living with unexpressed, need, that maybe they actually have been feeling resentment, things of that nature? What might be a practical step for them to take after leaving this episode to move towards that place of healing?
I would say in life, we won't regret what we said more so than what we didn't say.
Wow.
Yeah. So the something simple as me telling my wife how she looks, or I think she's cute, could be even this service for me to ever have met her, right? So what we often regret what wasn't said, and if we was mistreated, I should have spoke up for myself. I should have advocated for myself. So I think unexpressed needs become resentment, because when needs remain unspoken, people often assume that others should recognize, even without explanation, like what they're going through, how they feel about what was said. So those unexpressed needs, I believe, become resentment, and this should be expressed.
Yeah. I just want to say that what you said right there, it hit me hard when you said often we regret we don't we say that one more time.
I say in life, we won't regret what we said more so than what we didn't say.
Yes. And that spoke to me, because I often say, when I'm just having conversation with, friends and stuff or family, and I'm like, my father passed away in 2022. And when he passed away, I grew up a daddy's girl. I was a daddy's girl. And then as went on and I got older, and, boys started entering my life and things of that nature, our relationship shifted. And so during the time of his passing, we didn't have the relationship that I always imagined I would have when my dad passed. I wasn't even there when he passed. So my cousin Tony, I love my cousin Tony dearly. He was there with my father. And one of the things that have resonated with me, I know how much I love my dad. And, even though we weren't where I would have wanted us to be, the one thing I realize is that whatever the relationship you have with a parent or whatever, once they're gone, they're gone. There's no opportunity to say any more words. So if there was anything that you wished you could have said or what have you, when they're gone, they're gone. So if you have the opportunity, and I understand that many of us might be in different situations, and putting yourself in the space of your biological parent may not be the healthiest thing for you at all. And I completely am very sensitive to that. But if that is not your situation, I just say that if there is any opportunity at all, because the thing that you may not realize is that while they're here, you might think to yourself, well, I'm not talking, I'm not gonna, because, whatever the issue is going on between you two. But when they're gone, you might find yourself in a place of resentment because you didn't say such and such and such. And now you have to work out that healing, which is possible, but in a different way. Because now the thing that you need to say to the person who you want to say it to isn't physically here. So there have to be alternative ways to work through that healing. So I just said that to say, when you were saying, we might not resent the things we say more so than the things we didn't say. That's just one space in my life where that hit me hard. And I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, I can definitely say in reference to what you just shared with us, that's one thing that, and my family is aware of this. I often say this to them because my brother and I had a spell where we didn't speak for like 6 or 7 months. And it was just one day that it dropped in my spirit to reach out to him and say, you know what, I forgive you, whatever, I'm over the situation. And I often tell my family, I'm so grateful that I had that time to be able to express those feelings to him, because I would have never guessed in a million years that, the traumatic event that happened September 16th on 2023 would have occurred. But had I not expressed those feelings and shared, my thoughts and beliefs with him prior to that happening, I've seen someone personally who didn't settle their differences with him. And it's been such a hard journey for them. And all I can do is let them know, hey, I'm here. But then on the other side of that, I'm so very grateful that it dropped in my spirit to resolve that. So going back to our question is, when needs go unexpressed, the heart begins to keep a score. And we may start thinking, about others like, well, they should know me by now. Or dang, if I've been there for them, why aren't they here for me? But if the need was never clearly spoken, the other person may not even realize something is missing. So over time, disappointment builds. And when disappointment goes unaddressed, it slowly transforms into resentment. Yeah. At that point, many people stop trying to communicate altogether. So then the withdrawal emotionally, not because they don't care, but because part of them feels exhausted from carrying feelings that were never even acknowledged. So truth is, resentment is often just a need that went unheard for too long. And silent suffering isn't a sign of weakness. It's often a sign that someone has been strong for far too long without feeling safe enough to be seen. And I say this to say healing begins the moment we allow our experiences to be named. Because when we give language to what lives inside of us, we create the possibility for understanding, compassion, and change. So sometimes the most powerful act of self-love is simply giving your truth permission to be heard.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Say that one more time.
That's why we call you Ren the Jewel Dropper.
Ren the Jewel Dropper. I'm like,
I appreciate that, Mr. Al. All I can do is speak from the heart. I just recently, and I'm at a point, I feel comfortable sharing this. I recently was at a point where I had encounters with, people, family members who were involved with the person who also lost their life at the same time my brother did. And they were like, I'm just really surprised that you aren't all angry and hostile and all this stuff. I said, no, let me tell you something. This must have been why I love that Heavy D song so much growing up, because I'm going to tell you now, I got nothing but love for you. I come from a place of love.
That's good, Ren. Honey, you just helped me. That's good. That's
Mm-hmm.
good. That's good.
Mm-hmm. And it felt good. I'm sorry, Mr. Al, what'd you say?
No, go ahead. Finish
I
your
was
thought.
gonna say, it felt good, even though it was kind of like, whoa, shoot, when we had the encounter, but it
Yeah.
felt good just being able to open up and communicate, because, it wouldn't be healthy. Like Mr. Al said in a previous episode, I don't want to be walking around constipated carrying words that, they can't stay in here. I can't
Yeah.
carry this resentment. It's not healthy. Like, I have a whole child to live for. I'm not trying to stroke out or, have some type of something happen to me because I'm sitting up here carrying stuff that it wasn't mine to carry.
That's right. Oh, that's good. It was not yours to carry in the first place. Man,
Mm-hmm.
that's good.
I want to add this right here. Very important to me, and I believe it would be important to our viewers. I had the opportunity before my brother went into hospice. I had the opportunity to sit with him daily. His words that he expressed to me at that time, he's completely vulnerable. Our expression freely from each other. He told me that I was the greatest little brother in the world,
Mm.
and my eyes began to fill up. And he asked me a question. This was the last time he spoke, because after that he was not in speaking at that time. But his words was, "Did I do well?" And I started listing all the things that he had done, being a martial artist, the people that he influenced, that he taught. And I was able to go on. And he smiled, and that was it. My point being is, we are unique within ourselves. If you haven't at this time, hopefully this segment right here will encourage you to express how you feel about your loved one, about someone maybe that you haven't been expressing your true feelings, or maybe the job that has been overworking and underpaying you. Express, advocate how you feel. And I want to make sure I say this. I mentioned that we are unique in ourselves because culturally or just maybe routinely, we say things such as, you lose your mother, you only get one mother. You only get one any person. You only get one. Well, if it's twins, we are unique within ourselves, and you only get one. So appreciate that one. I want to make sure that I say that. So no more suffering in silence.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Mr. Al. And I say, even before we part today, I want to offer this as a reminder. Strength isn't measured by how much pain you can quietly endure. True strength is found in the courage to acknowledge your feelings, express your needs, and honor the truth of your experience. If something in today's conversation resonated with you, let it be an invitation, not to judge yourself for the times you stayed silent, but to begin practicing new ways of showing up for yourself and moving forward. Sometimes healing begins with something as simple as, this matters to me, or this hurt me, or this is what I need. Because when we give ourselves permission to be honest, we stop abandoning ourselves in the name of keeping the peace. And that in itself is a powerful act of self-love.
Yes.
Well said.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. And Only thing I can add, or would even add if there was anything, which honestly there ain't, but you can start with that self-love by being honest with yourself and maybe just journaling. I would like to add a reminder to all of those who are watching. We ask you to continue to join us along this journey by hitting that subscribe button, like this video, and share with everyone you know, because we are all on our journey of healing, somewhere on our own journey. We hope that you enjoyed this episode, and we look forward to seeing you in our next episode on next month. Check out our description for other resources to help you along your journey. Have a great day.